3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS, the number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Moist Mike and Stuart Kovacs rock and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Whole lot to do today, coming off an exciting weekend of college football and what was just a chaotic Week 10 and our 10th NFL Sunday get-together of the season. And I got to start with the game that was hyped up to be a big game, and it was a big measuring stick for both teams. It was an opportunity for the San Francisco 49ers to show that their last 3 games were an anomaly, and for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it was an opportunity to actually have a legitimate win this season. And it was an opportunity for them to put the flag in the ground and say the Jacksonville Jaguars are ready to take that next step. And going into the game, I trusted the 49ers. I liked the 49ers, but I didn't think we were going to see this be a bloodbath and this be a massacre. And when you walk away from that game, the immediate takeaway is 49ers are back in the good graces, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are a fraudulent football team. And when I say fraudulent football team for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and let's start with them, that's not me saying they suck. That's not me saying that they're terrible. That's not me saying that they won't make the playoffs this year. But Jacksonville is kind of the team that, where if you want to equate it to a freshman quarterback, that's a 4 or 5-star recruit in college, and there's so much expectation, there's so much buzz, there's so much hype. And then you get him on the field and you go, yeah, that quarterback is too young. That quarterback is not ready to play. And that's what you're seeing right now with the entirety of the team in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because the facts are, in their 2 biggest games of the year, and I was talking about this all throughout the week, that in their previous biggest game of the season, they laid an egg. And I said this going back to week 2, where I was out on Jacksonville after their performance up against Kansas City, because we all knew going into this season, Jacksonville was going to win double digits. Jacksonville was going to be in the playoffs. But they were in the playoffs last year. They had the dramatic turnaround a season ago, where they went from back-to-back number 1 overall picks, taking Trevor Lawrence and Trayvon Walker, survived the catastrophe of Urban Meyer, and then they bring in Doug Peterson. They win the AFC South. They go to the playoffs. They win a playoff game, and they lose in the divisional round. But off of that, you put yourself in a situation where people want to see you and people expect you to take the next step forward. And in week 2, they had a vulnerable Kansas City team. A Kansas City team, yes, they were just getting back Chris Jones. They were just getting back Travis Kelce as well. But that offense, even now after 10 weeks, is still not in sync with Kansas City, even with the great Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. And you were at home for both of these biggest games. And in week 2 up against Kansas City, they laid an egg. In week 2 against Kansas City, they only were able to put up 3 Brandon McManus field goals. Heck, no one loves Brandon McManus more than me. I went to college with the guy at Temple University. But when he's your leading scorer in a game, that's a problem. And think about that. They did not score a touchdown up against Kansas City. And yesterday against the San Francisco 49ers. And they were playing a pissed off, motivated San Francisco 49ers team. They repeated what happened in week 2. And the Jacksonville Jaguars actually made it worse. They only got 1 field goal. They saw Trevor Lawrence throw 2 interceptions. And once again, in a big game, one of their biggest games of the season, with an opportunity to show that they belong amongst the NFL elite and the top contenders, they didn't even get a touchdown. It's one thing if they would have lost the game. Right? If they would have lost to the 49ers 28-27, bleep happens. Right? We all know the 49ers are a heck of a football team. But to get dragged up and down the field and look like you had no business being on the field, that's something where I will channel what I said back in week 2, and I'll repeat it again. This is just a good team. This team is not ready to take the next step. And up against the marquee opponents, this team does not perform to the level that they are capable of. And this is a fraudulent football team from where we thought they could be prior to the season commencing. And if you want to disagree with it, if you're one of those Jaguar fans that a few years ago were so embarrassed with your football team, you were so passionate, you were dressing up like clowns, and you're saying, oh, Zach, I want to clown you today. Oh, Zach, you're not being fair with my football team. Well, the proof's in the pudding. Go look at your schedule this year. You struggled with Indianapolis in week 1. You beat them. Then you got embarrassed by Kansas City. You lost to the Texans by 20 points. You sparked the Texans' run of dominance as of late. Then you beat the Falcons. Whoop-de-damn-do. You beat the Bills. The Bills, that's not aging like a great victory. And the game was also right in London when you were there for 2 weeks. You beat the Colts. All right, you beat them twice. Let me throw you a parade for that. You beat the Saints. They're no good. You beat the Steelers. Good defense, but the Steelers got nothing on offense. And then up against a marquee opponent in the 49ers, you got embarrassed. You got exposed. You got dominated, and you lost the football game 34-3. So go bounce back this upcoming weekend against Tennessee. Dress up the record and make you 7-3. You'll be a double-digit win football team. No one's taking that away. But I can't believe in Jacksonville. And I can't think Jacksonville is going to do anything great come playoff time. And I can't trust them. Because we've now seen it twice against two of the top, 6 or 7 teams in the league. There is a big gap from good to great. And that's even with Kansas City struggling this year. The 49ers struggling this year. You couldn't even show up. It's one thing to win the game, but bare minimum, you should be able to show up against these teams. And it's alarming with how great I believe Trevor Lawrence could be that in the 2 biggest games of the season, he did squat. That entire offense started to look like they were playing offense right now for the New England Patriots, where you go from being a good team and a good offense to an anemic, putrid, lethargic offense. And it just doesn't add up because you have all the pieces there. You got enough in the wide receiving department. You got enough in the running back department. You got enough in the quarterback department. You know the coach is a championship coach. And this is the results that we have. The results are that you're a 6-3 football team, but 2 of those losses carry an enormous amount of weight, and they indicate to me that I can't trust that the Jaguars will be hanging around long come playoff time. So that's the Jacksonville side of it. But when we get to the 49ers, I think a lot of people owe the 49ers an apology. And I know I get often confused as being a hater of the 40-winers because of the whole Debo Samuel interview when he hung up on me. But I defended the 49ers last week. I said the criticism about the 49ers got taken too far. And all I said going into this year, and I'll still stand by this, is that the Eagles are better than the 49ers, and I do believe the 49ers are the second best team in the NFC. That's what I said before the season. Now through 10 weeks, you could have a healthy debate. It's clear that the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. The record says so. And then you can debate, should the Lions be the second best team or should the 49ers be the second best team? But if you go through the numbers and you see where this team was the last 2 years, they have gotten off to slow starts. And in the last 2 years, they have found a way to get it right. They've been to the last 2 NFC championship games where they lost to the Rams and they lost to the Eagles. So just because they got off to a little bit of a shaky start where they were thriving in the beginning of the season, but then when they got to 5-0, they lost 3 games in a row. And 2 of those games, they just got bad bounces. But it was not a mystery to why the 49ers were struggling. It's because in those weeks where they lost, they asked Brock Purdy to be great. Brock Purdy right now, even though he was incredible yesterday, is not in a position to carry a team. He is a part of a system that has one of the more loaded rosters in the NFL. So when Trent Williams is hurt, when Debo Samuel is dealing with an injury, even though McCaffrey all he does besides yesterday is get in the end zone, even he was banged up. When you see the roster start to get a little bit decimated with injuries, naturally, that's going to level out the playing field. But there is still no doubt in my mind that the 49ers are a contender. The 49ers have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. The 49ers have a chance to win the Super Bowl. But they're just personally not my pick. They're not. In the NFC, as long as Jalen Hurts is healthy, the Eagles, I believe, are the best team in the NFC. So yesterday, you see 2 different kind of statements that were made. One in a positive way for the 49ers and one in an extremely negative way for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The 49ers, I don't know if I want to say they put the flag in the ground, but the 49ers basically did the Undertaker gif yesterday, or the Undertaker meme, where it's like, all right, we're back from the dead. We have popped back up from the tombstone, from the casket. We're alive. We're well. And they do have a presence to them where they could haunt you. And they could haunt many teams in the NFL. And it wasn't just that the 49ers won yesterday. It was how they won. With Brock Purdy looking great. With McCaffrey dominant in the run game. George Kittle going for over 100 yards. Debo returning. Trent Williams. It wasn't just how it wasn't just that they won, it was how they won. And then the most impressive thing was the defense. The defense holds Jacksonville to a lousy 3 points. Think about that. So that's a statement yesterday by the 49ers. We are more so the team that was 5-0 compared to the team that lost 3 in a row. And then the other statement that was made by the Jaguars is we're solid. We're good. We can look the part at times. But when we go up against the big boys, when we go up against Kansas City, when we go up against the 49ers, we're just not there yet. And I just wonder with Jacksonville, how much is maybe a mental problem? Because we all know they have the talent. We all know they're a good team. And when you see a performance like yesterday, and this is coming from someone that laid the 3 points with the 49ers, it doesn't make sense how you could play that poorly in your 2 biggest games of the year. And I understand, hey, this team has limitations, but they don't have limitations that would suggest to me that they shouldn't show up in the 2 biggest games of the year. They're not better than Kansas City. They're not better than the 49ers, but it shouldn't look like a game where the men are the 49ers and Chiefs and the Jaguars are like a bunch of little boys. That shouldn't be the case. You should be able to sit at the grown-up table and show that you belong, even though if you're not at the head of the table. But after watching what happened in week 2 and watching what happened in week 10, it is clear that the Jaguars right now, they may be the head at the kiddie table, but they're not close to sitting at the adult table. And they'll be in the playoffs. They'll be in the dance. Maybe they win a game at home in the playoffs, assuming they still win the division. But I don't see them going to conference championship weekend. I don't see them taking that next step. And they had the potential to do that before the start of the season, especially with the momentum that they built last year, doing the unthinkable, making the playoffs, doing the unthinkable, coming back against the Chargers, and also finding a spot in the divisional round and keeping it competitive, keeping it close against the eventual world champion Kansas City Chiefs. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Where's your confidence with the 49ers and how concerned are you with the Jacksonville Jaguars? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll take a break. When we come on back, Jimbo Fisher fired by Texas A&M. Was it worth it to get rid of him? And also, there's an NFL coach that is getting rumored as the dream destination and the dream choice for A&M to hire. I'll tell you why that won't happen when we return.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time for Texas A&M to cut bait with Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher is really the John Gruden of college football. He's an overrated coach who's living off one championship. Jimbo Fisher had all this talent last year, couldn't win. This year, going up against Miami. You're a better team than Miami, and Miami punched you in the mouth. Jimbo Fisher stinks. You got to pay him the money, hold your nose when you do so, and say, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. A&M finally did it. And A&M did it following a 51-10 victory up against Mississippi State, who also saw their coach get fired. Now, Zach Arnett was the first-year head coach of Mississippi State, taking over for Mike Leach after Mike Leach, unfortunately, did pass away. So you could maybe just argue maybe they never really believed in Zach Arnett long-term, and he's like 36, 37 years old. But when you have a coach die, which was just absolutely horrible with how much Mike Leach is beloved, you quickly got to go find someone else. And, Arnett maybe just knowing some of those players at the time was perceived to be the best guy for the job. And I think a lot of people viewed him as a stopgap hire before a year or two from now, barring a miraculous season for Mississippi State, that they would probably be in the market for a new coach, because it's always tough to replace a legendary coach. It's one thing, though, when the coach loses. It's another thing when the coach, in just horrible fashion, literally dies. So that's a very tough situation there at Mississippi State. And now they'll start their search for their next new head football coach. But to Jimbo Fisher, it wasn't a matter of if he should be the head coach at A&M any longer. We all knew that ship did sail. We all knew that Jimbo Fisher was past his prime, far away from the days of winning a national championship at Florida State. Outside of the COVID season, really did nothing at A&M. And when you watched A&M under Jimbo Fisher, I didn't see really any difference compared to the A&M under Coach Sumlin, who they got rid of in order to bring in Jimbo Fisher. Now, the one thing I'll give credit to Jimbo is that the last 2 years, he has done a kick-ass job on the recruiting trail. In 2022, they were number 1, and they were top 10 in 2021 in terms of recruiting. I think they were 8th. But when you have all that talent and you have high expectations, and when people are talking about you as a dark horse to win the SEC or one of the more talented teams in the country, when there's maybe only 2 or 3 other rosters that you could argue you would want in the SEC, you can't afford to bottom out. And last year, they bottomed out. They went 5-7. So going into this year, just being above 500 wasn't going to be good enough. And we talk about records, and then we talk about sometimes records being misleading, where you could have a decent record, a solid record, but it's where your standards are and what are your expectations. And for Jimbo Fisher this year, at best, in the final 2 games of the season, he could be 8-4, and then if they win a bowl game, 9-4. So you could look at that record and go, oh, Zach, 9-4 isn't terrible. But let's take a deep dive into that record. Big game week 2. Miami. You got smacked in the second half. You played Alabama. Had Alabama on the ropes. Your coach got conservative. You lose to Tennessee, who isn't the same Tennessee as a year ago. And probably the final nail in the coffin here for Jimbo Fisher, or the thing that just reiterated that they have to get the boosters and the donors to pay the $70 million buyout, even though Ole Miss is having a really good season, it was another game that they lost. So it's like you have a coach that could get the talent in there, but what do you do with the talent? And another thing is, this is why I was not a Jimbo Fisher fan. It's also why when Dan Mullen was at Florida, I was not a fan of Dan Mullen, and it's why I'm not a fan of James Franklin at Penn State. I understand there is a recruiting brilliance to every time a coach is in front of a podium, every time a coach is holding a press conference, but when coaches lose and try to tell you it's not as bad as it seems, or they almost act as if they win following a loss, or make excuses and just say things that are nonsensical, it drives me crazy. Like when I talk to my doctor, and I have pretty good blood pressure, but Zach, what makes your blood pressure rise? It is when a coach says something that's extremely stupid following a loss. So in this case with Jimbo Fisher, this was actually following a win. So it was only a 10-minute press conference. I watched the entire thing. So congratulations, coach. You beat a bad Mississippi State team 51-10. You're 6-4. You're still underachieving this season. And this was Jimbo Fisher talking to the media after the game. And when I heard this, I said, hold on. I gotta run that back. Zach, maybe you're a little bit tired. Zach, maybe you had a long weekend. I heard this last night. Oh, Zach, maybe it was after the 8-hour marathon of Ion football. Maybe you're a little loopy. Did you have a cocktail after Ion football? Like, there's no way this coach actually said this. But this is what Jimbo Fisher had to say following the Mississippi State game.
Coach, you have a night like tonight where you're using your third-string quarterback and you play as well as you do. Does it just make this season just that much more frustrating and head-scratching for you?
No, it's not frustrating. I mean, disappointing at times. Like I said, we're 3 or 4 plays from playing in a playoff spot. But that's we got to put that past us and got to grow from it and learn from it for next year. But we got to finish out this year. Right there, we're 6-4. Need to be the best 7-4 team in the country and the best 8-4 team in the country. That's our goal, and it's what we can control right now. But no, I don't dwell on those things right now. I live in the moment, and that's getting ready. We got to be ready to play Abilene Christian next week.
Down front left, Mark.
A few plays away from contending for the college football playoff? On what field? In what sport? What team are you watching? You got smacked by Miami in the second half. That's not a few plays. You lost to Alabama. You lost to Tennessee. You lost to Ole Miss. You want to tell me, okay, those games were close? A few plays go your way? Yeah, in each of those games. But overall, you guys have never looked like a threat. You guys have never been a force. You've never been a team outside of brand recognition and the talent that you have that anyone's shaking in your boots when they go up against you. Because everyone knows A&M is all sizzle under Jimbo Fisher. They're all hype. They're all talk. And outside of 2020, when you get on the damn field, this team isn't a juggernaut. This team isn't a force. This team doesn't spark fear in the actual big dogs in the SEC and in college football. So that's really, I had enough of Jimbo Fisher before them. I am not a fan of Jimbo Fisher, but to try to dress up your season following a win and trying to tell people, yeah, we were a few plays away from making the college football playoff. If you had 2 losses on the season, okay, I could see it. If you had 1 loss on the season and it just didn't play out in your favor, okay, I could see it, coach. I could rock and roll with that, coach. I think I'm a pretty understanding person. I think I like to listen to both sides, even if it goes against my beliefs. But when there's still 2 games left in the season, and even before you had 3 games left in the season, you're sitting there with 4 losses on your resume, and you lost to Ole Miss, who's in the top 10. You lost to Tennessee, who's in the top 25. You lost to Alabama. Even when Alabama wasn't heading in the right direction, you got exposed up against Miami. You can't give me that bull junk, as Deion Sanders would say, about this team being a few plays away from the college football playoff. Yeah, maybe the college football playoff, if they expanded this baby next year to 12 teams when they do, but not in a 4-team format. Maybe Jimbo jumbled that up. Maybe he didn't get the message. Maybe he didn't get the memo that only 4 teams make the college football playoff this year. Give me a break, Jimbo Fisher. And now he's out of a job. And I was reading today that the dream candidate for A&M and the guy that A&M wants is Dan Campbell, who attended A&M and played for A&M. Dan Campbell's not going to A&M. Go ask football coaches, would you rather be a college coach or an NFL coach? What's the easier lifestyle? It's the NFL. NFL, you actually get to leave the facility. NFL, you actually get to go home. NFL, you don't have to recruit. And then when you recruit players and then you give them some tough love, you don't have to fear that they're going to hit the transfer portal. And also, Dan Campbell, even though when he was hired and I heard his introductory press conference by the Detroit Lions, I was like, this guy sounds like a Big Ten coach. He sounds like a college coach. Even though I said that, the last few years, he has displayed he's an NFL coach. And not only an NFL coach, he is an elite NFL head coach right now. Look at what he's doing in a miserable, terrible, usually putrid football team in the Detroit Lions. He has grown them each year. And they took a big step last year towards the end of the season after a terrible start where it looked like it was trending where he would be begging to take a college job. And they finished strong. And this year, they are thriving. And they are one of the better teams in the NFC. And you could argue if they're the second or third best team in the NFC. So you could want Dan Campbell as your next head coach if you're A&M. Like, I want to go on a date with Beyonce. It's not realistic. It's not happening.
Don't sell yourself short.
What do you mean?
I hear Beyonce's kind of into tall sports media personalities.
She's married to Jay-Z.
What do you have?
You
that,
think she's
that you don't?
Jay's a lot. Look at the dinero. Look at the looks as well. Come on, that's Hova.
I mean,
He's got a certain swag to him. I'm just Zach Gelb, the yelling talk show host. Come on.
You making around the same amount of money as Jay-Z.
I was once in the same room as Beyonce.
There it is.
It was Coach Vermeil and I at a Super Bowl where you're talking about his wine and football, and Beyonce walked right behind us. And J.J. Watt was actually off to the right corner. Beyonce goes to sit down, and let's just say her backside was facing us, and J.J. Watt turns to me and he goes, "We got the best view in the house." And J.J. Watt was 110% right.
It was love at first sight.
It was. Beyonce was my childhood crush. So I'm not saying A&M shouldn't, place a phone call to Dan Campbell. If I had Beyonce's number, I shoot a text message, "Hey, you up? What you doing? You want to go on that date?" But I'm not expecting a response, or you're expecting the response of, "Yeah, lose my number. No, not interested." So when I thought of the A&M job, these are the 5 names, which the A&M job is a good job. You got to go win, but you got a ton of resources. You can recruit. We know they love NIL, and it even annoyed Nick Saban that he was getting beat out by Jimbo Fisher, and it led to that almost kerfuffle a few years back at the SEC media days. But the 5 names that I would consider in order, and 5 names that I would place a phone call to, you got to see if Dan Lanning would say no at Oregon. I don't think he would leave, but Dan Lanning has SEC roots. Kalen DeBoer at Washington, even with them going to the Big Ten. Mike Elko, who was your defensive coordinator. I don't think it hurts you to place a phone call to Coach Prime. And I've said this going back to last year, or even 2 years ago. I thought Coach Prime was deserving of a Power 5 job. He got a Power 5 job at Colorado, even though it's not a behemoth of a job. But could you imagine what Coach Prime could do in the recruiting world with the resources at A&M? Now, I don't think he's going to leave his sons right now in Shador and Shiloh Sanders, but at least ask. And then finally, Lance Leipold. I know Coach Leipold has said, Kansas is the last job. He's not leaving Kansas. That's all fine to say. That's all nice to say. If this guy could win games at Kansas and he could turn around Kansas quickly and bring Kansas to a level in the national cycle where people actually care about them and they're respectable, imagine what he could do at A&M. So those are 5 names that I did look at. Now, in the betting world, I did see the odds come out. Jeff Traylor is at plus 300. Mike Elko at plus 300. DeBoer plus 500. Dan Lanning at plus 600. Lance Leipold at plus 1,000. And here are some names down on the list, but intriguing names. James Franklin at plus 2,000. If A&M hires James Franklin, and I saw my buddy Matt Lombardo, who covers the NFL, who's like a Penn State sycophant. He was like, Penn State fan base doesn't appreciate James Franklin. Maybe he should show them how actually would get appreciated. Goes to A&M. If he goes to A&M, you're basically hiring Jimbo Fisher without the national championship, because James Franklin can't win a big game to save his life. Lane Kiffin, depending on what you want to believe, I think he wanted the Auburn job last year. Auburn didn't want him at plus 2,500. Would he jump Ole Miss to go to A&M? I don't think Mike Norvell is leaving at plus 3,000 with the job that he's done at Florida State. And Dion, Coach Prime, was at plus 5,000. But here's the big name. At plus 5,000, Urban Meyer. Now, Urban Meyer comes with a lot of baggage. Urban Meyer could be a pain in the ass. The moment things don't trend the right way for Urban Meyer, right? He's on the sideline falling down and basically looking like he's going to need to take a leave from the team. But we know Urban Meyer can win. Urban Meyer has won everywhere he has gone in the college world. The NFL world, he was a disaster, one of the worst NFL head coaches we've ever seen. And I think Urban Meyer, even though he says he doesn't, and he leaks out that he doesn't, I don't think he could say no if the right job came calling, and you could win at A&M. You could easily win at A&M if you are Urban Meyer. But I don't know if Urban Meyer's style flies anymore in the year of 2023. So there are some names right there that have been thrown around in the betting world, and names that I've thrown around as well. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We got a few questions. We got a few answers. We'll do Onside, Offside next. We do that segment every Monday and Friday right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Standing by first, though, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. The Bills entered the season as one of the contenders in the AFC, and now just trying to hang on. They're 5-4 and have very little margin for errors. They host the Broncos tonight. The offense has sputtered. The defense has been hard by injuries, but through it all, head coach Sean McDermott has tried to keep his chin up.
Confident in our team, confident in our coaches, confident in our players, confident in our staff. Doesn't mean we don't have work to do. Doesn't mean we don't have a gap to close, and there's different things that make up that gap. And so we've got to continue to drill down on those areas.
The Broncos come into this one after back-to-back wins, including one over the Chiefs. The Bengals got some encouraging news with MRI showing that pass rusher Trey Hendrickson suffered just a hyperextended knee. Mississippi State has fired Zach Arnett after just 11 games on the job. He had taken over following the sudden death of Mike Leach. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Legendary NFL on CBS broadcaster Ian Eagle here with us.
You're a natural iconoclast. I've known that about you from way back when in your teen years. So none of this is surprising, and it's what makes you an excellent talk show host.
Yeah, Skip Bayless Gelb just called me. That's what people say these days.
Hot take.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Onside, offside time. Let's go.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, Zach. Well, in the Steelers, they escaped Green Bay with a controversial win over the Packers. In the second quarter, Kenny Pickett threw what appeared to be a backwards pass that was dropped and picked up by the Packers. However, the refs called it an incomplete pass, even after replay, despite disagreements with Gene Steratore and Charles Davis in the CBS broadcast booth.
Sometimes these are really difficult in that stands world because of that angle. And when you're looking at it, to me, it was just not enough to overturn one way or the other, guys. I know it. You may disagree with me, Charles, I
disagree, Gene.
But I just felt like it was a tough one.
Gene, I think if the official on the side moves himself in position, he sees clearly that that's a lateral, and that should have been Green Bay's football.
So onside, offside, the play should have been ruled a fumble.
I'm actually going to agree here with Gene Steratore. I thought it was very close. I thought it could have gone either way. And even though I can't stand those TV refs, I will agree with Gene and give Gene the benefit of the doubt on this. So I'm going to agree with Gene Steratore there, and I'll go offside.
Offside.
Now, in the Lions' last-second win over the Chargers, Dan Campbell took a huge risk late in the game.
Yeah.
Going forward on 4th and 2 with 1:38 to play rather than kicking the go-ahead field goal. Now, the Lions end up converting on 4th down and end up kicking the game-winning field goal as time expired, so it worked out in his favor. However, onside, offsides, it was the right call to go for it on 4th down in that situation.
I think so. Dan Campbell has the aggressive approach, and he has this aggressive mentality. Now, sometimes just because you're aggressive, it could also be a stupid decision. But so far, that guy has understood his team, and the decisions that he has made has pretty much have gone to a T in the way that they've expected to. So, yeah, you could say it's a huge risk going for it on 4th and 2 with a minute 38 left rather than kicking the go-ahead field goal. But if you don't do that and then the other team gets the ball back and they go march down the field and get a field goal, you go into overtime. So I'm okay with playing to really bleed out the clock there. So I thought that was the right call on 4th down onsides.
Now, Will Levis, we've talked about a lot. He looked sharp for the Titans in his first start with 4 touchdown passes, but has 2 picks and hasn't thrown a touchdown in his last 2 games, both losses, including yesterday's bad loss for the Titans. So onside, offside, Levis's first game was more of a fluke, and he's not a starting caliber quarterback.
I think this is an easy offside, and the reason why is we live in a world, especially when it comes to football, where we react to everything, and one game determines the bigger picture. Oh, this guy's the GOAT. Oh, this guy stinks. Oh, this guy could be the guy. He is him. He is not him. With all these sayings and everything. The guy is not going to be perfect. There's a reason why he fell to the second round. The first 2 games of the season for him, the first game he thrived, the second game he was solid, and also this Tennessee team is not great. So there's going to be some ups and downs, but at the end of the season, it's how do you view him? How do you walk away from that conversation? And I don't think this will go that south for Levis individually, where you're not at least bare minimum intrigued to see what he could do from start to finish when you give him the full season. So when you say Levis's first game was a fluke and he's not a starting caliber QB, that's offside. It's just the natural ups and downs. Now you vacillate from good to bad, good to bad. Eventually, you got to get it consistently good when you are a young quarterback. And here's a big hot take, and a take you don't need a PhD in football for. People are human. People make mistakes. You don't automatically walk onto the scene and become this rock star and never have a moment where you stumble. So I go offside.
Offside. Now, my former team, the Jets, lost again to Stu's Raiders and have just 3 offensive touchdowns in their last 5 games, with Zach Wilson throwing just 1 touchdown pass in that span, which is insane. Robert Saleh is now 15-28 in 3 seasons as the Jets head coach. So onside, offsides, the Jets should fire Saleh after this season.
I say onsides, and here's why. That team, it's one thing to lose to Stu's Raiders, but it's another thing to get out-coached by an interim head coach who's in his second game as the interim head coach. And not only that, have sloppy, undisciplined play and a ton of penalties over and over and over again. And Saleh, I don't know if he's afraid of Joe Douglas, if he's not allowed to make the decision, but it's almost like he doesn't have cojones to sit down Zach Wilson. I know he did that last year, but you had an alternative of Mike White. Like, you look around the league, there's a lot of bad quarterbacks being given opportunities, and they're at least playing somewhat competent football. And Zach Wilson wasn't even the biggest problem last night, but with the game on the line, he threw a terrible interception. The Jets next year could be a contender with the healthy Aaron Rodgers, and you can't leave any stone unturned because you're going to basically have 1 year to go win it. This is not going to, I don't know if Rodgers is going to play an extra year after that, where when Rodgers first got there, it was like, okay, you're going to at least have him for 2 years. So I have questions about the coach, and I don't know if the coach could be a good coach. So I would probably set the restart button at the head coaching position and go get an established coach after this season. So you asked me the Jets should fire Saleh after this year. I would say onside there.
Now, Kyler Murray returned from injury, throwing for 249 yards and rushing for a touchdown, leading the Cardinals on a game-winning drive in the 4th. So onside, offside, the Cardinals can build a title contender around Kyler Murray.
Moist Mike, I love you. I do. I love the question here. The team wins 1 game after we just trashed them for like the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season. They win 1 game, and now it's, Kyler Murray, who we all left for dead, and we all left for him getting traded this offseason. Now the question is, can they build a title contender around Kyler Murray?
I'm not saying this team to win a title. I'm just saying,
I'm not saying
Kyler
right now.
Murray a Super Bowl caliber quarterback.
No. I think he's a good quarterback. I question the work ethic. He could put on electrifying plays like yesterday. He could look competent like yesterday. He's a good quarterback. A really good quarterback. but I don't think he's a great quarterback. So he may be the quarterback next year for the Cardinals because he'll win some games and maybe they'll move down the draft board. But I don't think that's a guy that I look at, especially with how he handled the poor performance in the playoffs a few years ago, and say, that's a guy I'm winning a Super Bowl with. So I'll go offside.
Offsides. We'll go through this one real quick. You mentioned before that Mississippi State fired Zach Arnett after just over a year under the helm. He won a bowl game last year in replacing Mike Leach, but he's been 4-6 this year. So onside, offside, Mississippi State is a top 25 college football program for a coach.
I think it's close, but I'm going to go offside. It does not sit well with me after the standards of these circumstances here. Like Mike Leach, horrible story, passes away. You go to a guy on his staff and Zach Arnett to be the head coach, and after 1 year, you pull the plug on Zach Arnett. Like, they weren't that bad where you don't, with the young coach, give him another season, especially under those circumstances. It shows you that they did not believe in Arnett, but they're in a really tough conference. We know the best conference in college football in the SEC. They're a good job, but I don't think that's an elite job where you're consistently a top 25 college football program with the way that it's viewed. So I will go offside on that one.
Offside. And we'll do this one really quickly as well. Deion in Colorado lost again. They've dropped to 4-6 after starting 3-0. Now, after the loss, Winston Watkins, the cousin of Sammy Watkins, and a top 100 player from the 2025 class, announced he was decommitting from Colorado. And the Colorado Buffaloes have just the 63rd best class for 2024. So recruiting-wise, we're not seeing the results and the returns that Deion keeps promising. Onside, offside, despite the hype, Deion will not be able to build a true contender in Boulder.
A contender to do what? Because they're moving to the Big 12.
To win the Big 12.
Oh,
to win the Big 12 and make a run in the playoffs. Maybe not win a title, but to, in a 12-team expanded playoff, do something.
Okay, that's two different things. Do I think he could win the Big 12 through time? Yes. Will he be at Colorado for 3, 4, 5 seasons? I probably don't feel that way. But I don't think just by winning the Big 12, because we saw Oklahoma dominate the Big 12 with these great Heisman Trophy winners, and they couldn't do squat in the playoffs. So I will lean more offside if it's to make a little bit of a run eventually in a 12-team college football playoff, which does start next year. So I would go offside. Despite the hype, Deion won't be able to build a true title contender in Boulder. I'll actually go onside. I agree with that statement. All right, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Coming on back, talking a little Bill Belichick. Should he stay or should he go?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
What a surprise on a Monday. Hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Ryan in Santa Barbara actually brightened up our day. Who would have thought this? And look at that little cocky bastard. His football team wins one game after a 3-game losing streak, and he sends us ice cream? I don't know. Moist Mike, I got to ask you a question here. It is Van Leeuwen, malted cookie dough shake. This is tempting. I'm going to open this up. Now, it is sealed. I'm always skeptical sometimes of like listener food. Sometimes people send you something, and then the next thing you know, they put something in it, and they try to kill you. And I had a listener once, Jameson from Milwaukee. He sent me cookies. And I know that he has an actual like cookie business. They're like gourmet cookies, some of the best cookies I've ever had. And Jameson sent me the cookies, and Hickey said to me, like, should we eat these? Because like they weren't like packaged or anything. Like it weren't sealed. And he goes, should we trust? I go, we could trust Jameson. You know, if this is how I'm going to go, I'm okay going eating a delicious cookie. But Ryan in Santa Barbara, like, I never expected Jameson to lead us down the wrong path. Ryan in Santa Barbara, I think, literally wants me to choke at the end of the football season if his 49ers prevail and get to the Super Bowl, and he'll be insufferable. So with him sending this to the studio today and getting it delivered, should I trust it before I take a scoop of ice cream here? Because I am hungry. And not only am I hungry, like my throat was feeling like a little dry today because you turn on the heat finally in the apartment And then it's like, oh, you go from hot to cold, and it's just a mess now. I'm bitching and complaining about my throat being a little bit dry after finally putting on the heat. And Sam Durr, he texts me this morning, and he goes, my heat's not working at all in the apartment. So I could use a little ice cream to chill out the body, get me a little pick-me-up, but I don't want to die here.
So I will say this. It was delivered by a third-party delivery service.
So this could be like a hitman.
Well, potentially, or, if Ryan in Santa Barbara did want to poison us, going through one of these third-party companies would make it a little bit more difficult.
But is it actually a third-party company, or is he just telling you it's a third-party company, and he has someone just show up? Oh, I work for Uber Eats. I work for DoorDash. I work for Grubhub, whatever the delivery service is.
So normally
and then
I
boom.
would question it too. However, when the guy called, I missed the call, so I called back and said, thank you for calling blank company. This number is not in service. Please call customer service. And then somebody else called from a different number saying, hey, this is so-and-so.
That could be organized from the hit. Could that be an organized hit there?
Listen, I like Ryan in Santa Barbara. He is not this clever. He is by no means this detailed and this dubious that he would have multiple people calling in and fake voicemails set up from a fake service. And like you said, when I opened up my ice cream, which is the same as yours, there was a very sealed lid. So I trust Ryan in Santa Barbara, at least for this.
You know what? If I die, I die. So be it. This is really good ice cream. This is really good ice cream. Like, you know what? I remember when I had to eat ice cream on this show with a ranch dressing covered in it. Bryson Stott, I think it was, who admitted that. This is a lot better. When you get ice cream on a Monday, oh, I just dropped some on the rundown. Oh, I can't mess up the rundown. Not going to happen. There's a lot going on Monday. Coming off that 8-hour shift of Ion football. And, last night I usually get some ice cream after that. I didn't. To get ice cream delivered from Ryan in Santa Barbara, I think that's two things. I think part of it could be him being a little cocky, him trying to have a little fun with the show, which I appreciate. Or the other thing is he concerned about his 49ers? Is he worried about his 49ers and he's trying to get to the big fella's heart and soften me up a little bit so at the end of the year when the Eagles beat the snot out of the 49ers or beat them by a touchdown in the NFC Championship game and advance to the Super Bowl, I don't crush him on the air? Because I think last week, when we were calling him out a little bit for not showing up to the show and not calling into the show when his team was in the midst of a 3-game losing streak, was that him getting a little bit alarmed, him getting a little bit rattled. Wow, I'm on the radar of CBS Sports Radio and the Zach Gelb show, and now I got to consistently show up. So is this him in some way waving the white flag and trying to suck up a little bit to yours truly as I take my next bite of ice cream and speak so I can enjoy some of this, please?
I think after a 34-3 win in Jacksonville against a team that's won 5 in a row and has Super Bowl aspirations in the Jaguars, I don't think that this is hedging any bets here. This is a rubbing our face in malted cookie dough shake
Delicious.
French ice cream from Van Leeuwen, rubbing it in our face, saying, hey, we crush them, we shut you up, eat my ice cream, and stop talking.
But what did he shut me up from? I said the 49ers are going to win the game.
Game, yes, but the doubts about them overall, Brock Purdy being a system quarterback versus a franchise quarterback, there have been questions that you have raised that have been not as flattering for the San Francisco 49ers, and I think this is just his way of saying, enjoy.
You know what this ice cream's like? This ice cream is elite ice cream. This ice cream is championship caliber ice cream. This ice cream ain't Brock Purdy ice cream.
Oof.
It ain't the 49ers ice cream. This is not just get so close but yet so far. This is really good ice cream. I could eat this in what is this, a pint? It's a pint? I think so. Right?
That's a pint.
All right. 2.5 servings per container. There's only 880 calories in this container.
That's why this ice cream has lines out the door in the winter.
This tastes way too good. Like, this tastes way too fatty for this to only be 880 calories.
This isn't system ice cream?
This is great ice cream.
This is franchise ice cream. This is future Hall of Fame level ice cream.
I would give this ice cream. I'll get a review. But, when we pay quarterbacks, ridiculous amounts of money, this is not Dak Prescott, okay? You're paying the money, and it's definitely worth it. This is fantastic. And I mean fantastic ice cream.
Now, is this Joe Burrow ice cream or is this like Justin Herbert ice cream?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Justin Herbert has the looks of a great ice cream. But when push comes to shove, his team just doesn't get that far. All righty. I need to put a lid on this.
I'm not going to lie. I think you just finished the entire pint in that 5-minute span of time.
There is half here. There is half. Now, Michael in California says, so Zach, does this mean if I bring you BBQ in Vegas during Super Bowl, you won't eat it? Michael in California, there's a few food items that I say I won't eat if it's sent by listeners. Barbecue, especially for Michael in California, he's a chef. If that's my last meal, I'm okay with it. I'm okay dying from Michael in California poisoning me with some scrumptious food, especially barbecue. Like if my last meal is burnt ends, mac and cheese, ribs, wings, I'm okay with going out that way. Just make sure you bury me in some baked beans and some cheesy corn as well. That would be delicious. I don't know how I'm going to focus the rest of the show. I really don't. That ice cream is fantastic. Now, Santa, did you have any yet? Did you have any of the ice cream?
I did. I've had a few bites.
Okay. So, you know what? I know we opened up this segment saying I wouldn't eat listener food. If you're a listener, you want to send me some food, that's good. Just don't be that weird guy that tweeted me over the weekend. Some guy tweeted me saying he tweeted me 800 times last week about how the Browns would beat the Ravens. And I'm like, I have not seen any of your tweets at all. He was tweeting at Zach Gilbert. It wasn't even at Zach Gelb. I went to this guy's feed. He's tweeting me 300, 400 times. You're not responding. You're not responding. The Browns are going to win. And I'm not anti-Cleveland Browns. I get on this air, I go, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo. Or I'll sing, and I said, here we go again. It's the Cleveland Browns, and it's 1st and 10. So I've not been a Browns hater, but this guy thinks I'm a Cleveland Browns hater, and he spent his entire weekend and the entire last week tweeting me how Cleveland was going to beat the Ravens, but he wasn't tweeting the right person. He would just be typing my name, but he wouldn't spell my name right, or he wouldn't tag me correctly. The only way I saw it was I had to get on the CBS Sports Radio Twitter account for Ion Football, and I saw all these mentions to CBS Sports Radio about me, and I go, this dope didn't even tweet me. So there we go. So if that guy sends me food, I'm out. But Michael in California sends me food, we're in a good spot.
Mr. Gilbert, I'm all for it.
Thank you. We appreciate the service, Mike, Moist Mike. Anyway, let's get to Bill Belichick. See, that was a real mistake, me eating that ice cream on the air. Now, my mouth is salivating. I got to go for one more scoop. I got to go one more scoop here. And then I'll get a clear mind. My brain will be a little bit frozen.
Then we'll continue the show. Honest, I was ready for you to rip on Bill Belichick and Mac Jones. After eating the ice cream, you're going to be all soft and sweet. Belichick gave us good times. Maybe he deserves another chance. Maybe Bill Belichick isn't the wrong person for the job to rebuild this franchise. I think that your entire take on Bill Belichick has not changed because you have ice cream in your stomach.
4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years. Yeah, let's not get rid of Bill. Who wants to fire a grandpa? Seriously. Imagine if I get on the radio and say, let's fire a grandpa. Belichick is a little bit of a grouchy grandpa, but he's still grandpa. He's 71, grandpa. 72 years old.
He's a shirtless grandpa.
Yeah. I don't think I could say what I wanted to say on the radio. There's a certain term that he would classify in that status potentially, especially after that shirtless video.
A gilf?
Yeah, can you say that on the radio?
You can say gilf. You just can't say what the 4 letters represent.
Yeah, there are maybe some ladies in their 70s that look at Bill Belichick as a gilf. That is definitely a possibility, especially with the way that he was tiptoeing and trying to get out of that house after whatever he did in that house. You could use your mind. I'm not going to speculate there. I like to remember Bill Belichick as a 6-time Super Bowl championship head coach. I like to remember the good days with Bill Belichick. But in all seriousness, it is funny because I go from eating ice cream to now we're going to rip Bill Belichick. And we're going to give you my honest thoughts about Bill Belichick. I could probably use a napkin here. Oh, thank you, Santa. Did you bring me these paper towels or are these there? Good job. This is a good producer here. I got to wipe my mouth because I just feel like it's covered in this Van Leeuwen malted cookie dough shake French ice cream. That was great. That was spectacular. But anyway, in terms of the Patriots, I'm at a point where it's time to divorce from Bill Belichick. This was phenomenal. This was 24 years of greatness. This was an unprecedented run. This is a run that made the rest of the league jealous. It made the rest of the league as haters. Every single person, whether they want to admit it or not, is envious of the New England Patriots' success. But all good things must come to an end. And this year, the Patriots have hit rock bottom after finding a way to still float ever since Tom Brady walked out of the facility. And now this team needs a full rebuild. And what I mean by a full rebuild is year one, I have no expectations. Year two, slightly improve. And then year three, start to contend and start to be the looks of a playoff team. And if that's the case, then we're then talking about Belichick being 74, 75 years old. So the timing of this, since they're going to have a top 5 draft pick, since they're going to be picking a new quarterback this year, and Mac Jones will be shown the door. And Mac Jones, I've soured on him. I have. I used to defend Mac Jones. Oh, they didn't put enough talent around him. When you're basically crying on the sideline and none of your teammates are supporting you, it's a bad look for Mac Jones. Enough of the woe is me crap. But with Bill Belichick, he is a great head coach. The last few years, he's not been a good general manager. He's been an awful general manager. And now I need to bring in a new quarterback, and I need to draft a young quarterback, and I need to have confidence in the GM to surround that young quarterback with talent. And I don't have confidence in Bill Belichick to do that. Not that he's not capable of it, but he doesn't want to do it. He still lives in the world where Brady is his quarterback, and he could survive with guys like Doug Gabriel and David Givens and Chris Hogan and Brandon LaFell and Danny Amendola. Like, not these marquee names. In a pass-heavy league, you need to go do what Buffalo did. You need to go do what the Eagles did. You need to go do what the Miami Dolphins did. And that's go get your young quarterback help. He didn't do that with Mac. So now I'm going to trust him to do it with either Drake May or Caleb Williams. Bill, who is always known as being stubborn, and you can't tell Bill Belichick what to do. So that's why I'm at the point where the Patriots at the end of this year, whether they want to trade him, whether they want to part ways, whether they want to fire him, however they want to dress it up, they need to move on. They need to hire a young coach, a coach that's more fit for 2023, right? The player-friendly, the player rah-rah type of coach. But also, they need to go to a traditional structure where they hire a GM first and then the GM hires the coach. And I still believe the Patriots, from people in the NFL, will be an attractive destination because Robert Kraft has a lot of clout in this league. Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft, his son, they have a lot of respect in this league from people in the NFL, and they are a great franchise. That wasn't the case 30, 40 years ago. With what Bill and Tom has done, they are now one of the standard franchises in football. And I know you never want to be the guy who replaces the guy. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaces the guy. But in this case, I do believe there's a window with the top 5 draft pick where if you hire the right GM, you hire the right coach, you get the right quarterback, you could quickly turn this thing around. Like, look at the Texans. The Texans have been a joke. They've been a laughingstock. And they got the right coach in there this year. They drafted the right quarterback, and now they have a chance to compete for the playoffs. Yeah, go ahead, Samter.
So just here's the macro, larger worldview question. Let's say it's the end for Bill Belichick in New England.
In New England. I don't think it's the end for him in the NFL.
Let's say it's the end of him in New England. Maybe he gets another shot somewhere else. Considering how much he has failed since Brady has left and how well Brady did, winning a Super Bowl and almost going to another NFC Championship game the next year and the success he had in Tampa, are we going to look back at Bill Belichick and say he is not the GOAT because it's clear that he had to have Tom Brady to do what he did?
So all coaches need great players. I think morons will look at the last 3-4 years and will trash Bill Belichick. But I don't think people realize the beginning and the origins of Tom Brady. When Tom Brady won 3 Super Bowls in his first 4 years in the league, those were defensive-heavy teams. Brady was a game manager. It wasn't until 2007, after they lost that crazy back-and-forth game, which looked like it was going to be a blowout and then became a game where Peyton Manning finally got to a Super Bowl and won that Super Bowl, his only Super Bowl in Indianapolis, where then the Patriots trusted Tom Brady more, and they went out that offseason. They basically went on the Bleep U tour. They got Randy Moss, and they constructed that team that almost went undefeated. They were undefeated up until that Super Bowl where they lost to the Giants and went 18-1. From there, that's when Brady took that step of not just being a great postseason player, but becoming a great regular season player. But I think Bill deserves a ton of credit for the success of Brady in the earlier years, and then also for keeping Brady on the roster. Like, Brady was a third or fourth quarterback. There were people in front of Tom Brady. And Bill also deserves credit for sticking with Tom Brady when Bledsoe was ready to come back. Remember, that was the highest paid quarterback in the league. So I've said this for years, and people didn't want to listen. And even times people go, oh, Brady was a system quarterback. Remember that? Or Brady's not that great. That's what I had to fight with for years. I've always said, if I had to pick one or the other, I go with the player. Because as Bill would even say, players win the championships. You know, a coach is only as great as his best players. So I go more Brady over Belichick, but it's not 90% to 10%. I think it's like 60-40. I really do. But Bill, for a while, made the right moves with personnel, made the right draft picks, and since Brady's left, he did not adapt. He did not bring in more talent. Because Brady, you could survive with not getting the most marquee players. But once Brady leaves and you take Brady out of the equation, Bill didn't adapt to that. And also, it's like you could argue, and it shows you why they needed both, that AFC Championship game against Kansas City a few years ago. Belichick had a great first half. And the second half, Mahomes showed why he's Mahomes. But Brady won that shootout. But then 2 weeks later in the Super Bowl, they only put up 13 points, and Belichick had one of the great game plans up against Sean McVay's Los Angeles Rams. So I've said this for years, and I'll say it again. Yes, Brady was more important than Belichick. But that doesn't mean Bill Belichick doesn't deserve his flowers and his credit too. And I think both could have won on their own. Brady displayed that. Belichick has not, even though he did take the Browns to the playoffs years ago and did defeat the Patriots and Bill Parcells in that playoff game. But to be both become GOATs, they needed one another. To win 6 Super Bowls, they needed one another. And I'll tell you where Bill should go, because I still believe Bill could coach. Bill should go to Los Angeles. Bill should be the next coach of the Chargers, because Bill needs talent, and the Chargers need an actual football coach. Now, I don't think the Spanos family would dish out the cash, but if Belichick goes to the Chargers, watch out for the Chargers to actually be the force that they should be next year. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
The Jets have this great victory with a tremendous story in overtime. Xavier Gipson with the punt return for the touchdown. The second after that touchdown was scored, you had this TV ref jackass in John Parry going, oh, there should have been a penalty called on the play. We got to put an asterisk on this victory. Like, shut up! Stop, John! Zip your lip! Read the room! Get a life! I'm not even a Jets fan! And that drove me nuts! I can't stand the TV refs! Enough with the TV refs! They add nothing to the broadcast! Nothing!
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone. AutoZone, the free AutoZone Fix Finder service, can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Very funny comment here in the chat by Billy Wolf, who, when we were talking about Belichick with the shirt off, how maybe there's some people calling Belichick a gilf. When he was tiptoeing out of that house, he goes, Zach, how about Grandpa I like to fire with Bill Belichick? That's a very good line by Billy there, Moist Mike.
That's actually pretty clever, because I didn't think that you can say the F, but now we've changed it and made it work.
Yes. Oh, I thought you... I thought you meant that I just said it by mistake there, and I just didn't even realize that I said that word that I'm not allowed to say on the radio.
Billy Wolf helped us change it to make it PG-13.
So let me ask you a quick question here before I get to 3 college football takes. Like, I probably should ask you this on Onside, Offside. So my dad today, he makes this post on Facebook. Now, my dad was a big fan of the show The Odd Couple. And I guess there's this scene in The Odd Couple. I've never really watched it extensively, where it says on November 13th, Felix Unger was asked to remove himself from his place of residence. That request came from his wife. So today is November 13th. So if you're a fan of the show, like, you know that line from the show. So my dad randomly posts today on Facebook. Today is November 13th. I was asked to remove myself from my new place of residence. That request came from my wife. Deep down, I know she is right, but I know one day I will return. With nowhere to go, I have decided to bunk with my childhood friend. Several years earlier, he too was thrown out of his home. The question is, will we be able to live together without driving each other crazy? So my dad posts that on Facebook, and he basically goes word for word from the Odd Couple scene. I can't tell you how many problems this has created. My dad is telling me they just moved to a 55 up community. Everyone in the neighborhood is friends with them on Facebook. Half of them are calling my mom. Half are calling my dad. What happened? Lori threw you out. Like, what's going on? Now, I have a great uncle, Uncle Ben, who lives in the Philadelphia area. He's got to be like 92, 93 right now. If you want to know if Uncle Ben is not still fiery, and he's like a classic Philadelphia fiery fan, you want to hear what Uncle Ben left on the comment section of this post? He goes, the first thing I saw this morning was your Aunt Virginia holding her cell phone, visibly shaken. This is what your stupid Facebook post did to people who love you. That was one of the dumbest, most thoughtless things I've ever heard of. An 8-year-old would appreciate how the post would affect people who love them. I'm so disappointed in you. It was cruel. I am posting this on Facebook and not sending it to you privately, so the friends of yours who think this was just a prank may also realize their actions have consequences. Look at the fire that this has created in the Gelb family right before Thanksgiving, too.
Great for the uncle, too, because usually, like, older people using social media, they don't understand how to use it properly. So the fact that your uncle's like, I'm
great
doing
uncle.
this great uncle. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this intentionally, not because I'm
He's
just
a smart
so
guy.
old to realize what I'm doing, but because I want to embarrass you in front of everybody. Awesome. Uncle, wait, what's Uncle's name?
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben is my new favorite person. He's my new favorite Gelb.
Do you think well, he's a Kendall, but that's okay. Do you think it was my dad was in the wrong for posting that, though? Like, put it this way. If you didn't see the show, clearly you think he got kicked out of the house. But I don't think of my dad actually, who probably has done a lot worse and didn't get kicked out of the house. If he was getting kicked out of the house, I don't think he's posting it on Facebook. My dad's not a big social media kind of guy. So it's weird how my dad's brain was working here where he would post this, and he probably thought it was funny in his own mind because of the date, but you need to make sure that everyone understands the show. And it's not as if this was a show that is happening now and is happening right now, but it's wild, the firestorm that this has created where people actually think my mom threw my dad out of the house.
Listen, I'm all for a good movie quote on social media, but or a show quote, make it an obvious quote, or if it's something long like that could actually be misconstrued as something, put quotations around it. But, like, if you want to throw it in a movie
I don't
quote,
know.
great.
If there's quotes around that, am I saying, oh, this guy didn't get thrown out of the house? Come on. You think
You're
that's
reading
the
it
case?
differently. You're maybe reading it differently. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a little bit more of your erudite background compared to the normal man like me, the man's man, compared to Samter, who's like a little bit of a snob sometimes.
I'm just saying, anybody quoting 35, 40-year-old TV shows.
It is weird. I'm not defending him.
And this is like this.
No context. He just posted it.
No context. I love TV shows, right? If I post something about a marine biologist, people are assuming that there's a Seinfeld reference.
And not only that, he then, after like an hour, realizing that a lot of people, there were some people reaching out on Facebook, but then there was a lot of people reaching out behind the scenes. I guess they were taking sides to this. That he then posted the full clip, and there was like comments underneath it that go, oh, you were just messing around. But it's funny. My mom called me. She goes, I just want to make sure that you're not concerned. I go, Mom, I would like to think that if you and Dad were actually getting divorced, or if you got thrown out of the or you threw Dad out of the house, that I wouldn't find out about it via Facebook. All right. I would like to think that if this is actually happening, someone would pick up the phone and go, hey, I threw your father out of the house.
You know what, though? If Jim Harbaugh is finding out about his suspension on social media, then maybe you find out about it on Facebook. So
my father has entered the transfer portal.
That's funny.
It's amazing. Uh-oh. This is a problem now. Oh, my dad is listening. He just texted me. Call me. That's anyone had to do to find out the truth. Now, his feelings are going to get hurt. That people are commenting him and they didn't call him before they bashed him. Oh, this is going to be a family issue that never goes away. You know, all these people, they're getting older. You got to enjoy the later years in life. Stop the fighting and all that nonsense.
Can you please set up a camera at Thanksgiving?
Oh, man, that could be some good content.
Live streaming Thanksgiving at the Gelb household?
That could be some good content. Now, not everyone that's involved on this Facebook thread is going to be there. So you know what that means? There's going to be a lot of good crap talk at the Thanksgiving table.
Set up a Zoom call so that everyone who can't be there will be there and just let it all hang out.
I think I'd be too much of a smartass to get away with anything here because I have a lot of good jokes about this. I would fear that my grandmother would hit me with a wooden spoon. I really would fear that.
I would ask for that. I'm all for it. Please hit Zach with a wooden spoon.
So I'm going to my parents' community this weekend. My sister's coming into town with the baby and all that stuff. I just can't wait to walk around the neighborhood and everyone's going to look at me. Oh, there's that Gelb kid. Did you hear that his mother threw his father out of the house?
Just have your dad dress as Archie Bunker for the rest of the week.
All righty, let's get to 3 college football takes. I know we're all trying to figure out who is going to win the Heisman this year. Daniels from LSU definitely has an opportunity because of these statistics. I just don't think they have the team success to get there. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the name to watch, but that's going under the assumption that Ohio State is going to defeat Michigan, and I still don't think that's going to be the case. I really do believe we're on a collision course here to see a rematch of one of the best games of the season, if not the best game of the season, between Washington and Oregon. And with the numbers that Michael Penix have put up, and also Bo Nix as well, I feel as if the winner, if that is the Pac-12 championship game, will end up winning the Heisman Trophy this year. But you never know, because sometimes with those West Coast games, I know it's a little bit different with sometimes those games getting played earlier now with TV rights. When the games are on that late, how the voting breakdown will impact the Heisman Trophy. But I just feel as if right now, a few weeks away from handing out that Heisman Trophy, it feels as if this is a race between Michael Penix and Bo Nix. All righty, we have the SEC title game set with a few weeks left in the season. Alabama going up against Georgia. Georgia, people have said they are vulnerable. Georgia's still in the SEC title game. And now you're going up against Alabama, who a few weeks ago, I thought they were cooked. I really did. When they dropped that game to Texas, even though it wasn't an SEC opponent, I know Texas goes to the SEC next year, I thought for sure they were going to lose one more game. And we've never seen in the history of a 4-team college football playoff, and this is the last installment of a 4-team college football playoff, a 2-loss team get in. So I assumed by now that Alabama would have suffered their second loss. But it doesn't look like Bama's going to suffer a second loss until potentially that SEC title game. And I do believe Bama's alive in that SEC title game because they have a kick-ass defense, and Jalen Milroe has found the right path for him, and he is just electric running the football. And finally, I watched the Michigan-Penn State game over the weekend, and the way the game played out didn't surprise me. We know all Michigan did in the second half was run. They played bully ball. They said, we're going to just maul Penn State in the trenches. We know Edwards will break out for a big run. We know Blake Corum will break out for a big run. But when I watched that game, and I also very closely watched a few weeks ago when Ohio State played Penn State, even though it was clear that Ohio State and Michigan were better than Penn State, with how sloppy offensively both of those games were, I do believe, like 2 weeks ago, if you asked me, Michigan plays Ohio State in Ann Arbor in the Big House. What do you think happens taking into account the last 2 years? I would say Michigan will win probably by 2 touchdowns. That's how much better I thought Michigan was by Ohio State. I still think Michigan will beat Ohio State, but I think this is going to be a close game. I think this could be one of the biggest games that we've ever seen between these two teams, especially when you add in the cheating scandal, the allegations, people thinking that it was Ohio State who leaked things. We all know that there's a lot of bad blood here, but I really do believe this is going to be a close game. And also, I don't trust Kyle McCord, and I do believe in J.J. McCarthy, but in these big games, Michigan has not trusted J.J. McCarthy, which has been peculiar to me because I do think he has it in him. So I think we're seeing just what's going to be a classic bloodbath coming up at the end of the year, Thanksgiving weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. And I think this is going to be a touchdown or less kind of situation. Michigan will still prevail, but maybe it's like Michigan 27, Ohio State 23. So those are 3 college football takes. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back with a news brief, but first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And Week 10 comes to a close tonight with the disappointing Bills hosting the Broncos, who have suddenly shown some life at 3-5 after back-to-back wins. Buffalo is 5-4, but the offense at a second players-only meeting, hoping to solve the problem. Despite the inconsistency, Josh Allen trying to remain positive.
Sense is we've got our best football to play, and it's in front of us. And, we're not going to let the fact that we're 5-4 make this team and divide us apart. We've had stretches where we haven't played up to our standard in the past, and we've always found a way through those. So that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to find a way through it.
Denver's defense trying to do the same. They've allowed the most yards on average and second most points per game. Marlon Humphrey has a lower calf strain. The Ravens' corner is just day-to-day. Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson has a hyperextended knee. He's fortunately day-to-day. It seemed as if it was going to be much worse when it happened yesterday. After signing Carson Wentz for depth, the Rams head coach Sean McVay said Matthew Stafford will start at quarterback this weekend. And Mississippi State fired Zach Arnett after one season. He took over after the tragic death of Mike Leach nearly a year ago. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty, let's start it off with the quarterback of the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff. What a game that was between the Lions and Chargers as the Lions survived 41-38 in that shootout. Big moment at the end. It was 4th and 2 at the Chargers' 26-yard line with 1:47 to go. With the way that points are just flying right off the shelves there, if you settle for a field goal, there's a chance with about 1:45, 1:47, whatever it was remaining, that the Chargers get the ball and they go tie up the game with a field goal, or they go win the game with the touchdown. So on 4th and 2, Dan Campbell said, we're going to go for it. Jared Goff found Sam Laporta's having an exceptional rookie season on a 6-yard pass, and they moved the chains forward, eventually run out the clock and kick the Riley Patterson game-winning field goal. This is the quarterback of the Lions, Jared Goff, on Dan Campbell's 4th down gamble.
Ballsy. I don't know if I can say that, but ballsy, and it paid off. And we love when he puts us in those positions to make those plays. And he's got balls of steel, and today he showed it.
What a line there by Jared Goff. That was like me asking earlier, can I say GILF on the radio? Jared Goff, can I say balls? Oh, I can? Okay. He's got balls of steel then, that Dan Campbell. And he definitely does. But I can't argue with the call. I think Zach Gelb, like 2-3 years ago, would say, what the heck is this coach doing? But doing it in that moment with the tone and the pace of that game, if you kick a field goal, that's an eternity, even though the Chargers can't close out a game to save their life, to go march down the field and put the ball in the end zone. And isn't this wild? And I'll bring in Stu here for this. Stu, you've been watching the Chargers for a long time. We've seen multiple quarterbacks. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Doesn't matter who the players are. The Chargers for the last 20 years get in these epic games, and it feels as if they're always on the wrong side of it when it's all said and done. It is crazy to me, with all the talent that they have, that this team continues to get so close, but yet so far, and they lose these just wild, highly offensive games.
Yeah, it could be Phillip Rivers, it could be Justin Herbert, it could be Norv Turner, Marty Schottenheimer, Staley. It doesn't matter. It's the same Chargers every year. It feels like, 20 years later, it's the same thing, in rotation. Let's
go to Brian O'Neill of the Minnesota Vikings. He joined me on Eye on Football yesterday, and he commented on the toughness that TJ Hawkinson displayed in their victory as the Minnesota Vikings have now won 5 games in a row.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, he's laying it on the line. You know, he's got to hit the oxygen after every season. He can't breathe. His chest is so messed up. But it's great. You know, we have guys who are willing to fight, guys who are willing to play through injuries. We have guys who are willing to put it all on the line for each other. And it's credit to the culture that we have here and what we have in this locker room is special.
So he had a core injury. Ribs were not in a good spot. Needed oxygen on the sideline after every series. TJ Hawkinson still goes for 11 receptions yesterday, 134 yards and a touchdown. Holy smokes. That's toughness that none of us have right now. Here's Arthur Smith. Desmond Ridder did come into the game, played well. Cardinals end up getting the victory. You had Taylor Ham-Heineke go down with the injury. Here's Arthur Smith on did Desmond Ridder's impact does his play impact the quarterback decision moving forward?
Yeah, we got to make a decision. Like I said, Des did a nice job coming back out there. I thought he kind of reset, confident in him, and he didn't flinch and gave us a chance to win.
Yeah, I liked Arthur Smith last year, and they made it a point of emphasis to give the ball to Bijan Robinson finally more yesterday, and you knew he was getting into the end zone. But I feel as if he's trying to make Desmond Ridder something more than what he actually is. On this team, you just need a game manager. And it seems as if every turn, every look each way, and he didn't say he was going to be the quarterback in their next game, they're trying to make Desmond Ridder out to be the star when that's not the way your offense should be dictated. Here is Doug Peterson on a blowout loss to the San Francisco 49ers.
I thought the team was ready. We failed to execute on the opening drive defensively, and we failed to execute on the opening drive offensively. And that's the part that is disappointing because these guys were ready to go.
No, they were ready to go if you thought that before the game, but when they got on the field, they didn't show that they belonged whatsoever. So that doesn't make any sense to me. In the 2 biggest games of the year, like your defense showed up against Kansas City, but your offense didn't. And the other day, no one showed up. So you're just a solid team. You're just a good team. You're the farthest thing from a great team. Here is Josh Dobbs, back-to-back victories with him being the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings have gone from 1-4 to now winning 5 in a row. How about that turnaround? Here's Josh Dobbs on another big win for the Vikings.
You know, mentally, once 2 o'clock hits on Monday, man, I'm on to the next game. You know, there's so much information that you have to consume at the quarterback position week in and week out to prepare you for Sunday. And so a lot of times, you know, not the momentum and the confidence that you have from a week, but, you know, the information or whatever happened last week, you have to put that aside, man, and get on to the next one.
That touchdown run that he had was insane. How he got out of getting hit, then runs like 7-8 yards down the field, points to the defender. The defender looks the other way when he's well past the line of scrimmage and gets into the end zone. That was awesome. Here's Sherrone Moore, who was the acting head coach for Michigan in their victory up against Penn State. He had an emotional interview with Fox after the game.
I want to thank the Lord. I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love the out of you, man. This is for you, for this university, the president, our AD. We got the best players, best university, best alumni in the country. Love you guys. These guys right here. These guys right here, man. These guys did it. These guys did it, man.
So I'm a Michigan supporter. I've been supporting Michigan. Even with that being said, I love that emotion that he showed. But there were cheating allegations against you. And then it's okay, I respect the us against the world kind of mentality. I'm just surprised that like almost everyone was crying after the game. Blake Corum looked like a warrior after playing that game. Even he was crying. Everyone was crying for Michigan. I've never seen a scene like that. It was wild. Here is Jim Harbaugh from earlier today, how he heard of his punishment from the Big Ten.
How were you informed on Friday about the decision?
Just somebody showed me their phone.
So via social media or the Big Ten contacted you?
Via social media.
Did you expect to hear from the Big Ten, though? I mean, did that catch you off guard that you're reading about it on social media?
Ward was pretty upset. He was on the plane, too. And he was pretty upset that he heard it through social media and not through the office, Big Ten office.
Little Tony the Tiger Petiti, come on. If you're going to try to be a big tiger here and be a big dog here, you got to reach out. You got to inform Michigan. I know they were traveling. They're on a plane, but you have Wi-Fi, right? All these coaches, they got Wi-Fi. All these teams, they have Wi-Fi. How does the Big Ten not reach out to them?
So here's a question. What if you tried to call them and he was like, I don't want to send them an email.
They know they're on the plane. Everyone in America knew they were on the plane. This is
Right,
like the most covered story on Friday.
Right, so maybe he's like, I don't want to send them an email or a text message.
Tony
I want to
Bettini's
call
a
them and
coward.
speak to them.
He's gutless. He's a coward.
Maybe.
He's gutless.
Could
That's
be
what it
that
is.
too.
He's trying to be a big tough guy, but he isn't. Here is James Franklin on the close loss to Michigan. That's what it says on my sheet. Watching that game wasn't that close. Here it is, James.
The turnover in the third quarter was a significant play in the game. Up to that point, obviously we were in a heck of a game and a heck of a dogfight against between two of the best defenses in college football and two of the best teams in college football.
Two of the best teams in college football. He said the same damn thing after the Ohio State game. Stop acting as if you're this great program. You can't beat great teams. You're now 3-17 in your career at Participation State University against top 10 teams. Stop with this nonsense. You are not one of the best teams in college football. You had 2 damn games on your schedule this year. You lost both of them, and your offense sucked. Here is Dana White on a potential rematch when I asked him that question with Adesanya and Pereira after UFC 295.
Listen, anything is possible. I mean, Alex moved up a weight class. I don't see Izzy moving up a weight class. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people do want to see it again. I don't know the answer to that question yet. We'll see when Izzy comes back, what he wants to do, where his head is, whatever he wanted to do. If he wanted to move up and fight Pereira again, we'd probably do it. Probably give him a fight at that weight first if he wins, and then give him a shot at Pereira. I don't know. I wouldn't say that we would never do it.
So for people that don't follow the UFC, Pereira and Adesanya have fought for years, and Pereira's just in a different weight class now. After he finally lost to Adesanya, Pereira's in another fight. He knocks out his opponent, and then he told Adesanya, come to daddy, basically come up a weight class or two. So I was in the press conference after UFC 295 and asked Dana White, what would he say to a fan that wants to see that fight again, but there's some complications there. As a casual UFC fan, bring on Pereira and Adesanya. 5 knockouts in the 5 main card fights the other night.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Rocking and rolling, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Let's get to 2 other storylines from yesterday in the NFL season. We've done a lot following Week 10, which does conclude tonight with the Broncos and the Bills. I guess that could be a decent primetime game, but some of the recent primetime games, Jets, Chargers, boring. Last night, close game between the Jets and the Raiders, but it's crazy. It was the race to whoever could get a touchdown first. And I know Stu's happy because Michael Mayer made an enormous, great snag in that back right side of the end zone. But that was a torturous game for us football fans to watch. Like, the only reason I thought that game was entertaining is because my best friend is a dope, but he's like a dopey Jet fan, where it's amazing how he keeps on believing in this team when through his entire life outside of 2 seasons, they have tortured him, they have kicked him in the cojones, and they have made him look stupid over and over and over again. And my friend the entire year thought that the Jets, once Aaron Rodgers goes down, was going to still be able to be this great football team. And I'm like, all right, maybe at best you guys can make the playoffs. Like, it's clear the Jets, if they had Rodgers, would be one of the best teams in football because you have a great defense, Breece Hall's a good running back, and Garrett Wilson's a heck of a wide receiver. And then all these other pieces like Allen Lazard, who doesn't work with Zach Wilson, would work with Aaron Rodgers, even though Allen Lazard has a bunch of problems. Now, the biggest problem with the Jets is Rodgers isn't there, and their offensive line stinks. But when you go to Zach Wilson, you already gave up on Zach Wilson. And how they didn't make a move for Josh Dobbs or Jameis Winston or Jacoby Brissett at the deadline, it is mystifying to me. And it's almost as if Joe Douglas let his ego get in the way. Not almost as if, he did let his ego get in the way. Oh, this was a guy that I picked second overall, if he can't even be a solid backup in this league, then that's a problem. It's a bad look. I mean, it's already a bad look on you. And you survived from that because you got Aaron Rodgers there. We've seen teams mess up their draft picks before and their coaches and general managers survive. It's not usually likely, but we've seen it. Look at the 49ers. Now, they built a great team, but the 49ers survived because of that roster. Even when they moved up and they made that crazy trade to go get Trey Lance, they survived that. And I'm not saying Joe Douglas is John Lynch and Robert Saleh is Kyle Shanahan, because I don't believe that either of them are that great. But you were surviving that. So in a year like this, where everyone now is going to give you the benefit of the doubt and they were going to give you a pass because Rodgers got hurt 4 plays into the season, you then say, yeah, we're going to go back to Zach. And not just going back to Zach. Like initially I thought it was a fine move. But Rodgers got hurt in week 1, 4 plays into the season. So after a few weeks, you should have seen enough that reconfirmed that Zach Wilson stinks. But the Jets keep on having kitty gloves on when they play with Zach Wilson. So, Stu, last night, the only reason why I found that game entertaining was because I saw the suffering pain of my best friend thinking that the Jets were actually going to win that game. And I was very happy with my under bet. I did bet Devontae Adams anytime touchdown because it was at plus 240. Sucker bet because the only one that got into the end zone was Michael Mayer last night. But where are you at, just wondering, before we transition to the Texans taking care of business against the Bengals and the Vikings winning again, where are you at now with your Raiders? New coach, new life, new blood, new opportunity. And now this Raiders team, somehow, some way, through 10 weeks of the season, are sitting there with the 5-5 record. And now they have a win streak. They have won back-to-back games. They have stacked dubs. And they went right back to the well of the victory cigars once again last evening.
Yeah, might as well keep doing it until they lose, which will probably be happening soon because they have the Dolphins at Miami this week, and then they have the Chiefs twice in like a 4-week span. The Vikings Chargers in there too. They
the
could
Red
go
Hot
1-5.
Vikings. Make sure that you get that right.
I know. I told you last week I thought that would maybe be a win coming off of a bye, but looking how Josh Dobbs has looked with the Vikings, that might be a loss. So they might be 0-5 in that stretch, to be honest.
So they're 5-5 right now.
Yeah.
They will lose to the Chiefs.
Yes.
They'll lose to the Dolphins first, so
Yes.
they'll be 5-6. Then they'll lose to the Chiefs. They'll be 5-7. I like the Vikings right now. They're going to be 5-8. Short week. I think they bounce back against the Chargers.
That's fair.
They should split, and they almost won that game last time, right?
Right. Yep.
So that gets them to 6-8, right?
Yes. And then Chiefs will probably be 6-9.
6-9. Colts. You could get a win.
7.
Broncos.
Maybe.
All right, 8. 8-9's not bad.
That's not bad. No.
If he gets his team to 8-9,
He should get the job.
he should get the job. And this is what I wonder. Will Mark Davis learn? So Mark Davis had Rich Bisaccia, who replaced John Gruden after the whole Gruden scandal. Bisaccia gets that team to the playoffs, and he had to deal with a lot more crap than what Antonio Pierce had to deal with. Pierce was just taking over for a guy that people hated. The players didn't hate John Gruden. And then you had the Henry Ruggs situation, Damon Arnett, right? With all his stupidity on social media. Like, there was a lot of serious things going on with the Raiders. And then also the Gruden scandal, which was not a good look for John Gruden. So you had to deal with all that. And they get to the playoffs where it's the year the Bengals go to the Super Bowl. And they were driving late before Carr threw that interception. There was a controversial... Wasn't that like a controversial
Yeah,
play?
right before halftime, there was like a inbounds, out of bounds type of... Did the guy step out of the end zone and come back type of a deal, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was freezing my tuchus off watching that game because that was the Saturday 425 game. The Saturday night game was in chilly -2-degree Buffalo where I was stuffing my fat face with wings. And I was watching that game in the parking lot tailgating. And I remember watching that before I entered the stadium, and that was the game where the Patriots just got pantsed by the Bills, and the Bills scored on every possession that they did have. So, good times. But Bisaccia took them to the playoffs. They almost beat the team that goes on to get to the Super Bowl before they lose to the Rams, team that wins the AFC, and he didn't get the job, and they hire McDaniels. So, barring it being the right big name, like if they get Jim Harbaugh, I don't see how you could argue it. But like outside of that, who's the name out there? You know, we could all have a preference like the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, for the Lions. You could like Lou Anarumo of the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, there's some names out there. But those guys are all gambles. Like, we all think those guys could be good coaches, but how many times does the hot coordinator end up turning out to be the actual good coach? Doesn't always happen. So unless you get Harbaugh, and this also is that Antonio Pierce continues to have the respect of that locker room and continues to do the right thing, I do wonder, and I can't get inside the mind of Mark Davis because you have to navigate through that really bad-looking haircut that he has and all that stuff. But just, like, generally, he doesn't make the right decisions. You would like to think he would learn because it's not the same situation, but it could be a similar situation where the interim coach actually has success. But I can't sit here with confidence that Davis is actually going to do the right thing if, and it's still a big if, Pierce continues to show that he's competent at the job.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really have a whole lot of faith in Mark Davis, to be honest. I'm glad he made the right move in firing McDaniels. That was definitely, I didn't think he'd even do that. And shell out the cash, too. Yeah, I didn't think he'd even do that. So the fact he did that maybe gives me a little more hope, but in the end, they probably will not hire the right guy. As much
it does
as
feel different, though,
Wait,
than
real
Bisaccia.
quickly.
Am I wrong?
Real quickly, just before you say anything, I have to make this public. I have to preface before we open up Samter's microphone here. Samter is good friends with Mark Davis. He hung out with him at the NFL draft in Las Vegas. Mark Davis actually came to the lobby. Where were we staying again? What was the name of that hotel?
Cosmopolitan.
Oh, yeah, the Cosmopolitan. Got Samter an upgraded room. Samter had like a balcony suite, and he's rubbing elbows, patting Mark Davis on the head, saying, "Nice haircut that you have, my friend." So Samter and Mark Davis are very close. So with all that being said, what were you about to say?
He actually sent his personal barber up to my room to give me a private haircut. It was fantastic.
I thought your hair was a little bit off that weekend.
Yeah, it was fantastic. No, I mean, Antonio Pierce's situation feels a lot different than Bisaccia, right? Bisaccia felt like
it's not going to be as good, though, as what Bisaccia did.
Well, we don't know. I mean,
they're not
Antonio
making the
Pierce,
playoffs.
Well, I'm not saying that he might make the playoffs this year. I'm just saying that the expectation and what Antonio Pierce can do with that team. Antonio Pierce is a rising star in the coaching ranks. And I've followed him.
A rising star?
Yes. Antonio Pierce, I watched him when he was at Arizona State because that's my team.
Yeah.
The reviews and the reports about him then was that people wanted him to be their coach all over the country in college football.
Yeah, got sloppy with recruiting and all that stuff at Arizona
State. Right, but a lot of that had to do with other things that wasn't him, but some of it was him, and a lot of it was COVID rules that I think a lot of coaches were a little bit unsure about what the rules were because they changed for that 1 year.
No, they knew what they were. They're rules in college football. No one really follows them because they're stupid rules.
Right. So at the end of the day, I don't care what rules he broke in college football.
No, neither do I.
If he's a good coach, he's a good coach, especially in the NFL. It doesn't matter. He's a rising star. Bisaccia was he was a lifer. He was a lifer who had been there for a long time and was like, you know what, this guy deserves a chance. Let's just kind of give him a shot to be the interim for now. Antonio Pierce feels like a guy that
young, up and coming,
has the voice that players listen to. He's energetic. He's smart. He's talented.
He has two things.
A lot of other teams would want to have Antonio Pierce as their coach. I think Mark Davis makes the right call and actually keeps him long term.
He has two things. Number one, he has the respect of the locker room, which is enormous. Now, there needs to be a difference in having the respect of the locker room and just not being a doormat for the players. I don't think Antonio Pierce is that. And the other thing is, and you saw this when he was a player, he's a leader. And how we thought of a football coach 10, 15 years ago is drastically different than the football coach that we think of today. Mike McDaniel doesn't scream to me successful football coach when you just hear him speak and you see his press conferences. The guy's a successful head football coach. So guys like that, Nick Sirianni as well, those are guys that end up having success. And Antonio Pierce has the look of the coach. Antonio Pierce has the feel of the coach. And it's just going to be, will Mark Davis continue to allow him to have that opportunity, and will he hire him full time? Because it's a big step to go from interim to being the permanent guy. Now, you know who kind of Antonio Pierce reminds me of? Because I said McDaniel and I said Sirianni. Does it kind of remind you more so of Dan Campbell? Former player, rah-rah guy, leader of men, football guy. They're talking last night, Josh Jacobs, I want to make you the focal part of the team. In 2023, when no one respects the running back we want to run, the linebacker that made the interception, when you have Max Crosby, we want you to be the star player in the defense. He's talking running backs and linebackers. Now, you got to eventually find your quarterback. And no one ever thought Jared Goff was this big-time stud when he got to Detroit, and Goff's been good enough. I don't think it's Aiden O'Connell. But you see that philosophy. It's very similar to Dan Campbell. We're going to win in the trenches. We're going to bite your kneecaps off. We're going to kick your ass. We're going to take names, and we're going to win football games. And you need the right mentality to turn over a dumpster fire of a situation. Dan Campbell did that with the Lions. I am curious to see if Antonio Pierce can do that with the Raiders, but it takes two to tango. Pierce has to show his worth. He's done that so far. They're 2-0. And then also, you need Mark Davis to do the right thing, and that's hire him as a head football coach. And that second part, the back end of that statement is still one where I'm like, I can't trust Mark Davis because it's death, taxes, and Mark Davis finding a way to mess it up during his tenure as the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, Stu. I know that was probably a lot for you to take in right there. At least you got some ice cream today. At least you got some ice cream. All righty, real quickly. The Texans beat the Bengals. The Bengals score right out of the gate. They're up 7-0. I'm like, uh-oh, here comes Cincinnati. They're humming. Then the Texans score 20 unanswered points. Then the Bengals get back into the game. Late in the game, when it's in the balance, we don't know who's going to win, C.J. Stroud throws a terrible interception. And it's 3rd and short. People saying they should have run the football. They didn't. How quickly C.J. Stroud has been able to bounce back has been remarkable. Like last week, we all thought that was impressive. Obviously, the 479 passing yards, the 5 passing touchdowns, the stats speak for themselves. They're historic. But this week, especially coming off the victory, when everyone's hyping you up, and you go down the field in 46 seconds to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after they just got the ball in the end zone, to then answer back the following week and march down the field again against a better opponent, shows that C.J. Stroud is the real deal. C.J. Stroud going into last week showed a lot of signs of being the real deal. And we talk about, right, DeMeco Ryans as a potential coach of the year. We all know C.J. Stroud's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But there's legitimate buzz today about C.J. Stroud winning the MVP. And I'm not going to say that he'll win the MVP, but you can't tell me there's not a chance. I still don't believe the Texans are going to make the playoffs. I don't. I think they're going to come up just short. Now, can they catch the Jaguars and win the AFC South? Maybe. But I still think the Jaguars, even after their terrible performance yesterday, will win the division, and the Texans will be contending for the wild card, and they'll come up just a hair short. But you have now seen them get the head coach right, and they've got the young quarterback right. And that made an organization go from being a clown show the last few years to now quickly starting to show signs that they're going to be a force for a while if they continue to make the right moves. But for the MVP conversation, it's not far-fetched. Go around the league this year. Mahomes isn't winning the MVP this year. I don't think Joe Burrow's winning the MVP this year. Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa, they're going to split votes, and they're on the same team with the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Hurts, I guess, has a case to be made. Lamar Jackson has a case to be made, even after that interception yesterday. And Lamar will probably win the award because I still think the Ravens are going to win the AFC North. But there's not a lot of great names out there. And if the Texans make the playoffs, and if you want to go by the definition of the award, most valuable player, well, C.J. Stroud wasn't on the Texans last year. He was in college. And he has come in the toughest position, not only in football, but in sports. And he has quickly made himself a top 10 quarterback. He has quickly showed signs of being an elite quarterback. I'm not saying he wins the award because I do think the Texans come up just short of making the playoffs. But the fact that there's even a conversation, one way or another, about C.J. Stroud potentially winning the MVP this year shows you that the Texans got it right, and the Texans are going to be damn good for a while. And then finally, the Minnesota Vikings, 5 in a row. They are now 6-4. Their next 3 games are cupcakes. This team is going to be 9-4 heading into the final 4 weeks of the season, where they do play the Lions twice. You have the Packers, and you have one more opponent mixed in there for the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's the Cincinnati Bengals, if memory serves me right. Let's see. Bengals, yep. Lions, Packers, and Lions. The Vikings go from a 1-4 start, having no prayer of making the playoffs, losing Kirk Cousins for the season. Justin Jefferson now coming back, but he's been hurt. And this team's 6-4. Even if they only win 2 out of the next 3 against the Broncos, Bears, and Raiders, they're going to be 8 wins by the middle of December with 4 weeks remaining. All you need in the NFC to get to the playoffs is going to be 9 wins. You get 9 wins, you're a lock to make the playoffs this year. And there's no doubt in my mind with the story of Josh Dobbs. I don't even think Josh Dobbs is great, but he's playing great right now, that they're going to take advantage of these next 3 weeks, and they are now a lock. And this is not me getting on the radio and saying, I think they'll make the playoffs. No, the Minnesota Vikings are a lock to make the playoffs. And something that needs to be talked about a little bit more, Brian Flores. Brian Flores, their new defensive coordinator. The Vikings defense the last few years has been brutal. That is now a good, solid defense. You look at this team's just getting better. Hawkinson's a stud. Addison's a good young player. Osborne out with an injury. They still got to figure out the run game. Dobbs playing well. And, you get maybe the best wide receiver in the sport back soon in Justin Jefferson. And all I said before the year, the Vikings just need a serviceable defense. Flores has done a good job. I just don't see a way right now, after starting off 1-4, now being 6-4, that the Vikings don't make the playoffs because of how easy their schedule is the next 3 weeks. And they will, without a doubt, bare minimum, get to 9 wins and be a playoff team. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, the Cockroach Cowboys fans are popping right back up. 6-3. We beat the Giants twice. We beat them 40-0. We beat them 49-17. You were going up against the Giants. They stink. Tommy DeVito is their quarterback. If you didn't beat them 49-17, that would be a problem. What, should we have Ryan in Santa Barbara send you some ice cream to make you feel better? Like, give me a joke. Now, give me a break here. What a joke this is. 49-17. Now Cowboys fans are like, yeah, we're back. We're here. We're a force. We're dominant. Watch out. Here comes the Cowboys. We're going to march to the Super Bowl this year. Please. Now, give credit to Dak Prescott because he played well in the game. And you can only go up against who your opponent is. Dak was taken out of the game because he was so damn good. 404 yards and 4 touchdowns. And also did have a rushing touchdown. You add that all together, 4 + 1 is 5. So 5 total touchdowns for the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on saying that the Cowboys are now this force. But here is a 41-yard touchdown pass to Michael Gallup. Good to see him get in the end zone as the Cowboys took a 35-7 lead up against the Little Giants.
1st and 10 at the Giants' 41. Snap to Prescott. Well protected. Deep down the right side. Gallup in the end zone. He caught it. Touchdown to Michael Gallup. What a throw and what a catch. 41 yards.
So now people ask, does this win, Zach? Does it change your view of Dak and the Cowboys? No, they're a good team. They're not a great team. And my analysis has been spot on this year. They beat the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Rams, and the Giants. Those teams all stink. They're all below 500 or 500 and below. Like, what makes you think in a big spot against the Eagles, oh, they got close, but yet so far? All right, you play the Seahawks, the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Lions coming up soon. This team's not going to get on a run. They're not going to start rolling through teams. And in the playoffs, Dak will be driving late, and Dak will come up small because he's the definition of a good but not a great quarterback. Let's go to SoFi Stadium. What a football game this was. You get points, and you get some points. 41-38 was the final score as the Lions roar to 7-2. The Chargers, oof, they fall to 4-5. Here is the Lions going for it on 4th and 2. inside the 30-yard line of enemy territory in the Chargers to eventually set up the game-winning field goal.
4th and 2 for the Lions. There's the shotgun snap for Goff. Back, looking, throwing, caught. First down to the 20 and down to the 19-yard line goes Sam Laporta. Hey, rookie, you just came up big, man. You just came up big.
What a call on the Lions radio network. I think that's how we should refer to people around here. Hey, veteran Samter, you just came up big. You just came up big. I
You don't
like
have to tell
that.
me twice.
I love that. Let's start yelling at people in the hallways. Hey, Pat Boyle over there, you got a show coming up, Brooke. You just came up big, Brooke. You just came up big. Kind of like that. Imagine if Spike starts treating us that way. That would be good. Now the Lions, 7-2. We were wondering before the year, we knew the Lions were a good team, but could they take that next step with all the expectations? There are only 2 losses. They got smacked by the Ravens. That was a bad one. The Seahawks back and forth at home. You lose in overtime. Can't crush them for that. This team's going to have a ton of wins. They're 7-2 right now. They play the Bears, the Packers, the Saints, the Bears, the Broncos the next 5 weeks. They should have 12 wins after that stretch. They should. Maybe you drop 1 and you get to 11, but that's not even going through the entirety of the rest of their schedule. This team is damn good. And they may get, I said this a few weeks ago, watch out for them. Even though I think the 49ers are better, watch out for them to be the second seed. And if the 49ers have to go to Detroit, or if the Cowboys have to go to Detroit divisional round weekend, and the Lions are coming off a win where the Detroit Lions haven't won a playoff game since 1991, yeah, good luck going into that building and finding a way to get a victory. Jared Goff, 333 yards in the game, 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 for $156 and a score. David Montgomery, sensational. That long 75-yard touchdown run, had 116 yards with that score. And Jahmyr Gibbs starting to get hot. Healthy and hot. 112 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Herbert, stats look good. 323 yards, 4 touchdowns and a pick. Keenan Allen, 11 for $175 and 2 touchdowns. Austin Eckler with 115 yards. But for the Chargers, you got to start winning games. And you don't win the games. So that's a problem. Brandon Staley, you're as good as gone at the end of the season. Welcome back, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray had a rushing touchdown in the game. You know, it was a fun watch between 2 teams that are like, eh. And we know the Cardinals aren't good because they had no quarterback. Well, Dobbs was solid for them, but they don't really have a great team. And the Falcons, they are starting to trend the wrong way. But Kyler Murray comes back, shows he belongs. 19-32, 249 yards, and that rushing score at 33 yards on the ground. And he drove his team late to get that game-winning field goal. Listen up to Matt Prater. Hit that kick. Short one, 23 yards.
Here we go. The snap's good. The ball's down. The kick is up. And the kick is good. And the Cardinals win it. 25-23. Welcome back, Kyler. Kyler Murray engineering the game-winning drive. And Arizona gets its 2nd win of the season.
You're going to have a top 3 pick to get Caleb Williams or Drake May. You may have to, if you want one of those guys, have a top 2 pick. The Cardinals, who have the Texans' 1st-round pick, that's not going to be a top 3 pick. And right now, if the draft started tomorrow, Arizona would be picking 4 with the Bears in front of them via the Panthers, the Giants, and the Patriots. All 3 of those teams need quarterbacks. I think the Cardinals will pick up, like, let's say 4 total wins by the end of the year, and they'll be just short of being in that top 3 category. And I'm starting to think maybe they could fall in love with another quarterback. Daniels out of LSU. Is it Michael Penix Jr.? Like, whoever else that is. Whoever the quarterbacks are that start to emerge after Williams and May for this draft. And maybe you fall in love and then you move on from Murray. But if I was a betting man now, I do think the Cardinals are going to keep Kyler Murray. And Samter wanted me to talk about this right here. Are the Cardinals making a mistake playing Kyler and losing the #1 pick? It's a good point that Big Mike CBS brought up. I think you got to play the games. I do. And I think when you have a new coaching staff, it's a bad message to kind of say, let's hold out a player who's ready to play. So I have no problem with the Cardinals paying Kyler Murray on the field. And if he plays well, he's not a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. You just wonder if he could be great. It's not the end of the world having to go with Kyler Murray for another year than one of these hyped-up quarterbacks who could be great and there's big expectations with those young quarterbacks, but how many times do we have big expectations with a young quarterback in college and they don't pan out in the NFL? Browns and Ravens. I still can't believe, this is nothing against the Browns, I still can't believe they won the game. When this game at one point in the third quarter was 24-9, and then in the fourth quarter was 31-17, it's just wild how quickly this game did change. I remember we were watching an Eye on Football, and the Browns, right, it's 31-17 Baltimore. Then you had the touchdown by the Browns to make it 31-24. Okay, you get in the game. Right after that, you get the pick six. And it's 31-30. Ravens get the ball back. They punt. And then the Brownies march the ball down the field, and they hit the game-winning field goal. Dustin Hopkins, who missed the extra point when it was going to tie it up 31-31, he misses that extra point. He bounces back with this 40-yard field goal.
Shotgun, takes the snap, looks to his right. Ball is...
What's wrong
Shotgun,
here?
takes the snap, looks to his right. Ball is swatted high in the air, and it is intercepted by the Browns. Greg Newsome along the sidelines into the end zone. Touchdown Cleveland, 33 yards off the deflection at the line of scrimmage. No penalty flags. And the Browns are within 130.
So that was the pick six, obviously. It's fine. Samter wrote, this is not me throwing you under the bus, that it was the Dustin Hopkins field goal.
I'll take it.
Hey, veteran, what are you doing over there? Why'd you mess up? So
I'm the Mark Davis
what was
of
wrong
no
with
huddle.
with the field goal call? Yeah, you were getting in my ear. I'm trying to listen to the call, so I wasn't really listening to you.
There was a flag in the middle, there was a flag on the field goal that ended up not mattering, but in the middle of the field goal call, they're talking about the flag rather than the actual field goal.
Oh, is that right?
So it wasn't
Which is
a
a
good
very
enough
Cleveland
call.
thing to do. You think you win, and then it's like, there's a flag. We never get these to go our way. So then you're going to freak out as if the kick's going to get pushed back, and then you're going to miss it.
And the call was like, and the field goal is good. There's a flag on the field. There's a flag. What's this flag? Like, he barely even talked about the field goal.
And it's not their usual play-by-play guy because, unfortunately, he's sick. And isn't it my BFF, Andrew Siciliano? So it makes sense he would mess it up, Andrew Siciliano. Let's be real.
Wasn't it Paul Keels that did the game?
I thought it was Andrew. He was filling in a few weeks ago. I still don't know if he's filling in right now. So we didn't have the actual call of that play-by-play. Play me that one more time. I could tell you if it was Siciliano. Just the pick six.
Shotgun, takes the snap, looks to his right. Ball is swatted high in the air, and it is intercepted by the...
Doesn't that sound like Tom McCarthy a little bit? Right? So that gave me the approval right there. So who's the play-by-play guy?
It was Tom McCarthy this week.
Does Ohio State.
Oh, that was McCarthy.
It was Tom McCarthy this week.
So that was the TV call there.
No, that was the radio call.
So is that Westwood? Well, where the heck is this call from?
Tom McCarthy was filling in for Jim Donovan.
Oh, he was on
and
the
Jim
local.
Donovan is the normal announcer
on the local Cleveland Browns radio.
Correct.
Doesn't McCarthy do TV now each and every Sunday?
He does a lot of different things.
Okay, man, this got real confusing. We take shots, and then it's not people we take shots at. We play the wrong calls. Let me tell you, this is
it's all Santa's fault.
Really smart radio show. If you've never listened to us before, you should not give us the benefit of the doubt if we're being crystal clear. But it's wild how quickly that game did turn, and it's good that the Browns kicker, Dustin Hopkins, bounced back because he would have got destroyed if he missed that extra point and it came back to cost them. I was watching Anthony Lima. He was doing some live feed from a bar, the talk show host in Cleveland, and every fan, Samter, like you said, had a similar reaction where it was, the flag's on the field. We're not going to celebrate. We have to wait to make sure that the flag gets picked up or that it doesn't come back to haunt the Cleveland Browns. Anyway, Browns win, long story short. Do you start to consider the Browns as a Super Bowl contender or a contender in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl? The Browns have a great defense. Offensively, I love their line. I like Amari Cooper. Good to see Elijah Moore get into the end zone. Watson played better, but I just still can't trust Deshaun Watson. I think the Browns will be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to be a team, though, that finds their way to an AFC championship game, let alone a Super Bowl. Commanders and Seahawks. Geno Smith, 27-yard pass to DK Metcalf. This set up the game-winning field goal by Jason Myers.
Seahawks need to get about 20 yards. There's a shot down the middle. DK has it. Spins out of one tackle. He's dragging guys down to the 25-yard line. But now they got to get up to the line of scrimmage. 13, 12, 11. Seahawks running to get to the line of scrimmage. Geno gets everybody set. 6, 5, 4, 3. He spikes the ball. What a pass by Geno, and what a clutch play by number 14, DK Metcalf. A 27-yard reception just when they needed it.
You know, it's wild when you watch the Seahawks because there's times where they pop and you're like, wow, this team could be a real force. And there's other times you go, why is this a game? And I think the Commanders are better than what we give them credit for. But the week prior, they got blown out by the Ravens, who are a really good team. They just survived and had to come back against Cleveland after a P.J. Walker interception. They played a sloppy game against Arizona. Geno Smith driving late, throws a pick up against the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, this team is just wild. They beat the Lions back in week 2 in that crazy up-and-down game that ended in overtime with Lockett with the walk-off. This is just who the Seahawks are. I think we need to embrace that. Seattle, to me, has a ceiling of just being a division-around team. I don't think they go any further than that. And finally, here's Robert Spillane, his interception of Zach Wilson. This seals the game just when Zach Wilson is starting to drive and just when Stu's probably shaking in his boots saying, uh-oh, the Raiders are going to lose this game and Zach Wilson's going to do it again. Here is that interception thrown by Zach Wilson.
Shotgun to Wilson. 5-step drop. Dumps it short. And it's picked off Spillane at the 15, 30, 35. Chase down from behind at the 40. Robert Spillane with his 3rd pick of the year. And the defense does it again.
So there you go. What an interception right there. Aiden O'Connell gets a victory. Am I supposed to believe in Aiden O'Connell? No. That offense was terrible. Aiden O'Connell stunk. Zach Wilson stunk. And the first team that scored a touchdown ended up winning the game. Both those defenses played well. The Jets have a good defense. The Raiders don't have a good defense, really, outside of Spillane and Max Crosby. But those offenses were just so putrid in the game. And you felt like the Raiders just had more star talent, so they were going to find a way to win the game with some of the stars that they have on the offensive side of the ball. That's your No Huddle Offense. We will come on back. We'll wrap up the show. Update time first. Here he is, the Yak Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
The Broncos meet the Bills to close out Week 10. Denver is trying to dig out of an awful start to the season. For a while, it looked as if Sean Payton had lost a lot off his fastball, especially when they allowed 70 points to the Dolphins. But things have turned recently, and they've won back-to-back games. Payton said things starting to come around, even if it has been slower than expected.
The attention to the details, the preparation, all the little things that we have to be maniacal with and understand. I use that term, a fine line between a groove and a rut. And so, you're always that one step away from one or the other.
The Bills are in a tough spot at 5-4. They're in danger of falling out of playoff contention. Zach Arnett is out after not even one full season at Mississippi State. He was thrust into the role after Mike Leach passed away nearly a year ago. The Rookies of the Year will be announced in the National and American League. The favorite in the NL is the Diamondbacks' Corbin Carroll, while the Orioles' Gunnar Henderson is the likely frontrunner for the American League honor. 4 games in the NBA tonight, starting with the Celtics and Knicks. Boston looking for win number 8 after beating New York on opening night. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to ask our Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Kevin in Baltimore says, Zach, who do you think will win the AFC North this year? You can submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. Follow on Instagram and Twitter using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Coming up this weekend in the NFL, this week on Thursday, we have a sensational AFC North showdown on Amazon Prime Video and also Westwood One which Al Michaels will be very happy to be on the call for that. Cincinnati at Baltimore. You also get the two other AFC North teams going up against one another this week. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Early thought on this Monday. I think the Browns are better than the Steelers, even though the Steelers beat the Browns earlier in the season. Both defenses are excellent. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, right in the forefront of the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Offensively, though, even though I don't trust Deshaun Watson, I trust him more than Kenny Pickett. The Steelers' offense, I just don't know where they're going. You know, Warren and Harris, the two of them, they could run the football. I don't love the Steelers' offensive line. Pickett can win games. He's had 7 winning drives in his career, but I just don't think the Steelers' offense has it. Pickens isn't happy. Deontay Johnson up and down. Freiermuth injured, and he's a good tight end when healthy. I just don't trust this Steelers' offense. And I slightly trust the Browns' offense more with Amari Cooper. And even though Watson has not played well, he's been banged up and even got banged up yesterday with the ankle. So we'll see where his ankle's at, even though he said he was going to play this upcoming Sunday. But I'll trust the Browns more so over the Steelers. And also, you got to think they're going to win and split these games. And this game is now in Cleveland. As far as the Bengals and the Ravens, that could be the biggest coin flip. It really can be. And let me see if there's an early spread out on this one. Right now, I have it right in front of me. Let me just see if this is going to load. Yeah, right now, the Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite. Man, that's a tough one. Because my first thought is the Bengals should win. Like, the Bengals, right, should cover that 3.5 point plus the 3.5 points. That feels like a field goal game or less. That's almost, it feels as if Vegas is begging you to plus the 3.5 points there. And the game's in Baltimore, too, which matters. I kind of like the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to win. I think the Ravens win that game 24-17, something like that. And then if that's the case, look, we all proclaim the Bengals are back, then the Bengals will be 5-5. But if the Bengals win this week, the Ravens fall to 7-4, the Bengals will go to 6-4. If then the Browns win, they're 7-3. If the Browns lose, they're 6-4. And then the Steelers could be either 6-4 or 7-3. It feels like the Steelers and Browns both should not be 6-3. I still feel as if the Bengals and the Ravens are the two best teams in the AFC North. But to answer the question, let me just chime in on the poll results here. At Zach Gelb, at CBS Sports Radio, who wins the AFC North? Right now, 4.1% say the Steelers. 13.9% say the Browns. 13.9% say the Bengals. And 68% say the Ravens. If I had to rank that right now, I'd say the Ravens still win the AFC North. Lamar's got to stay healthy. I know he had the pick 6 yesterday. I'm not going to crush him. You know, they should have won that game. They blew that game. I still love their defense. So I'll go Ravens 1. Even though I do not trust Watson and I don't think the Browns are a better team than the Bengals, I do feel as if the Browns are going to finish second in that division. Bengals will finish third, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers will finish in fourth. That's the way that I handicap, and that's the way that I look at that division right now, 10 weeks into this season. But you cannot get a better timing when really the AFC North is the best division in football, and it's not even close. And this weekend, it starts on Thursday with Bengals, Ravens, and then Sunday, 1 o'clock, Steelers and Browns. And you look at all four of those teams, Bengals good defense, Ravens good defense, Steelers good defense, Browns good defense. It's going to come down to the offenses. And Lamar, up until yesterday, in that fourth quarter, is playing like an MVP. Joe Burrow is healthy. And he made some mistakes yesterday. Steelers can't trust their offense. Browns can't trust their offense. So I will ride with the Ravens to win the AFC North. But if you want to order those teams any way you want, 1 through 4, with how it is through the first 10 weeks of the season, I can't call you crazy. Because either the Steelers or the Browns are going to be 7-3. No, unless there is a tie. One of those teams are going to be 7-3 coming off that game Sunday, 1 o'clock in Cleveland. And finally, I'll give you a thought on the game tonight, Broncos and Bills. This is an enormous game for Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott can only lose this game. Because if you win, people are going to say, yeah, the Broncos, so what? Like, it's amazing how some national pundits try to suck up to Sean Payton. And this team is not good. I get it. They beat the Chiefs. I get it. But just because they've won back-to-back games taking down the Packers and the Chiefs, I'm now all of a sudden supposed to say, oh, here comes the Broncos. The Broncos got their damn act together. If the Bills win this game tonight, my reaction is so what? But if Buffalo loses, and we know Buffalo isn't a lock to make the playoffs this year, this puts them at 5-5. And I do think that a lot of people are starting to turn on Sean McDermott. And this is going to be a tough decision for the Pagula family and also Brandon Beane, who's very close to Sean McDermott going back to their days together in Carolina. Because if you don't get your damn act together, and there's a lot of criticism at the end of the season, and this looks like that's the direction it's heading in, there's going to be a lot of people calling for McDermott's job louder than the people that are doing it right now. And the Bills schedule the rest of the way. Broncos and Jets, you got to win these next two games. You got to get to 7-4, and they should beat both those teams, even though they lost to the Jets early in the year. Because then the schedule picks up. Back-to-back-to-back weeks, you have the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Cowboys before ending out the season with the Chargers, the Pats, and the Dolphins. So I like the Bills to win the game tonight. The spread is 8 points. Oh, that's tough to trust Buffalo. Especially, even though this Broncos defense has not been great this year, they do have Patrick Surtain. I don't feel great about the number. I would probably tell you if I just look at the over-under and then the line, and this is probably a no play for me tonight. It is a no play for me tonight. I'm going to St. John's, Michigan, so I'll be catching the end of this game. I'll lay the 8 points with Buffalo, and I probably take the under of 47.5.